Boeing, battling one of its toughest crises since conception, has shut down talk again surrounding a new commercial airliner. Such talk follows a colossal loss of some USD 6 billion as covered in yesterday's video, this occurring across the third quarter, one of, I've got to reiterate, their worst quarterly performances in the last 6 years, although it was to be expected. The firm belief is that while innovation remains important, moving ahead with a new aircraft in Boeing's current state is unrealistic and can be perceived as an abysmal business decision. While internal discussions about the direction of a new aircraft will continue, Boeing must stabilize itself first as a business before even considering formally entering a new era for aircraft offerings. The knowledge, however, remains and involves the requirement for a new airplane. Boeing cannot continue with its current portfolio forever, and its next aircraft must be a hit from start to finish, but more importantly be one that doesn't encounter production errors or subsequent safety concerns. According to the plane maker's new CEO in Kelly Ortberg, releasing that plane now or any time in the short term wouldn't make sense. Remember, Ortberg only recently joined the company to help turn around its fortunes and restore the title as an innovative and legacy company within the United States, something that has been missing if you're trying to attach it to Boeing for many years now. We know that Boeing's purpose is to build aircraft, but it hasn't really been doing its core purpose well for over a decade, and as a result, change is required from top to bottom to stabilize this part of the business before venturing into a new endeavor. While there may be some optimism that 2025 and the following years will be better, and rightfully so, Boeing has already publicly stated that it will continue burning through cash next year. Furthermore, while 2024 has had positives in regards to major investment into safety practices, the early instilling of a new culture and leadership changes, it still has been 10 months of just absolute chaos. Not much can realistically change for a company with such deep-rooted issues in that short time frame. In the plane maker's current state, focus has to be placed on rebuilding core parts of the business itself and being realistic about the next few years, which will be unfortunately more complicated than maybe what was anticipated at the end of 2023 when the manufacturer put forward its 2024 forecasts. But in saying that, if it can continue to plug away and go through each year without having a, say, major headline story, then it will be progressing to its end goal. Away from a new aircraft, the priorities are recovering from strike action and stabilizing itself with repair work already underway. Next, Boeing must improve its production practices. This to satisfy the Federal Aviation Administration, but also just generally, it needs better production practices. Once they do this, they will be allowed to slowly increase production on key aircraft programs, such as the popular narrowbody, the 737 MAX, which is essential to really ensure the stabilization of delivery timeframes for customers who have long been awaiting planes such as these. However, all these focus points that I have mentioned don't include the many other current events that are taking place, such as struggles to certify the long-haul 777X, which was most recently delayed another year to 2026. Furthermore, 2 MAX variants also remain uncertified and need to be cleared up. Boeing knows that everything looks harder than it may, and it must return to what it does best. That is, building safe and revolutionary airplanes that will benefit the industry for decades to come. A new airplane has continuously been hinted at, though, across the last decade. You may know it referred to as the NMA, some would dub it the 797, as that is the only numerical configuration that is still available in, say, its pure state without adding an X or MAX on. And during the last decade, much has changed, not just with our industry, but also Boeing, which has seen its priorities shift ever so slightly, and that's probably me being lenient. The latest hint that we received regarding a new commercial airliner actually came following a rejected proposal by Boeing that was put forward to unions in a bid to end strike action only as recent ago as September. That proposal looked at backing the state it calls home of Washington and basically committing to launching a new aircraft program within the next 4 to 5 years, permitting approval from relevant authorities. And the real big kicker was going to be production elements such as final assembly, wing fabrication, interiors, wires, and also deliveries would occur within the jurisdiction of the union's 30,000 employees that were basically walking off the job. Ultimately, this deal wasn't approved, but if it had been, it didn't necessarily mean that the plane had to fly with airlines in 5 years, but it did mean that Boeing, following approval from the board of directors, needed to have basically announced its intent to the world. That very new aircraft now, however, seems like a pipe dream. Is it going to happen? Of course. Boeing is even aware that they need to launch a new aircraft, but right now, they've got more pressing matters, and while work will plug away in the background, they want to be a stable company by the time that new era truly comes to fruition. And it's going to be exciting, no doubt. I also think it's going to be a long journey, and Boeing would probably openly admit to you they've made it way more difficult on themselves than they needed it to be. But hopefully, fingers crossed, as we move into the midway point of this decade, this beloved plane maker that so many of us love and adore can try and rebuild itself and be that power horse that we really just want to see again, and then have Airbus and Boeing going for orders right at the top in a positive light. Because I certainly probably don't just speak for myself in saying all these developments that are negative are absolutely tiresome, and I'm excited to really put it all behind us and move on. That's not to say that Boeing can't be held accountable for what has taken place over the next decade, but hopefully we can slowly but surely move forward for the greater good. Let me know your thoughts. Do you believe it's a good decision for Boeing to really focus on stabilizing itself before moving ahead with a new plane and really shutting down talk regarding this? Or do you think it still really needs to be plugging away, for it could lose further ground to Airbus? Let me know your thoughts down below. Thanks a lot for the support here on the channel. Take care, be safe, and I'll see you tomorrow for your latest industry recap.
And we'll fly.